controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are A$AP Science here to make things make sense.
So we're doing this episode about marijuana quitting because Mitch is addicted to marijuana and he now wants to quit. And he's been freaking out and he makes me freak out.
This is not totally untrue, but I should say this guy right here, Mr. Gregory Brown, is the reason I ever got hooked on the stuff.
That is like what an addict does. Blames others for their own responsibility. I don't think I have like a super unhealthy relationship with weed, but I feel like in the more recent months or year, I've integrated it too much in my life, to the degree that the last time we did an episode on quitting weed, it was mostly focused on sort of like the symptoms that happen, like what you can expect to experience as you're quitting weed. And I think that's useful to know. But this episode, we wanted to focus a little more on like the strategies and the science behind treatments of stopping weed. And that might mean like in my case, I'm not necessarily trying to quit. I'm just trying to feel like I have a little, minimize it, have a little more control over saying like, it's not just going to happen randomly when I'm not deciding. I want to make like a goal around how much I'll use it, which is like less than I currently am. But a lot of the research is also about actually quitting, and everyone's going to be coming from a different place. So some people might be high all the time. Some people might be doing it once a week and think that's too much. And so this isn't like trying to say you shouldn't be using weed. You know, obviously we've like talked about weed a lot on this podcast, on our YouTube channel, but it's mostly just to say like, if you are interested in minimizing or stopping, this is the research. And there is a lot of research on it right now, especially in Canada and like Colorado. Actually surprised.
There's a lot of studies and a ton of meta-analysis around treatment and removing dependence on marijuana, which I thought was really cool.
Canadians are addicted to the stuff.
But there's stuff even in there's studies from Europe as well. I just was like kind of surprised.
But like Europeans don't smoke weed. Like Canadians are so addicted to weed. It's wild.
A lot of the Canadian government websites that are about not prevention, but it's about like responsible and healthy use, recognizes that Canadians use like the most marijuana in the world.
So I'm so pathetic. Like I don't have a barista that knows my order, but I have a weed guy that knows my order. It's the worst. I walk in, he's like, 1 Moyle pineapple lime edible drink, and I'm just like, thanks, Dave. And it's like, fuck. And then I like go to like the cafe.
I don't have that.
Every day that I go to the cafe, and they're like, what will it be today? I'm like, come on, a large drip coffee. Like, why is Dave able to remember this? He's ripped on weed. But like, it is so Canadian. Like every time I go in, there's like a tourist being like, "Oh, we're from Washington." Oh, not Washington. Actually, it's legal though. They'll be like, "We're from Idaho. So can we smoke this on the street?" And the guy's like so proud. He's like, "Hell yeah, baby! The cops are smoking on the street." And they're like, "Oh my god, we're in Amsterdam!" Like people come to Toronto and like, it's kind of lit for them to just walk into these stores and buy weed.
Yes.
Like I've seen that happen. You're like, "Hey, Canada is weed."
Almost any corner here, you can find a weed store.
It's actually insane. And it's like, how are these even making money when there's 14 on a block and they all smell like fart?
I know.
Okay, so 4.3% of Americans have tried to quit marijuana and failed. Mm-hmm. So it's just to make you like me out there, if you've tried to quit and failed, that you're just a part of a percentage that's quite high.
And I think something I want to address later as well is sometimes you might just want to like go through a break, have like abstinence, and that's also totally okay. So I think it's like you don't have to commit to quitting unless you really are finding that it's like a really bad influence in your life. And I think also it's worth knowing that baby steps are important. Like it is hard to quit cold turkey, as much as people like to say weed isn't addictive. Like from a substance perspective, it's obviously associated with your habits. I personally realize I've associated it with like winding down and relaxing and ritualizing, like
and cleaning.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, I want to talk about that. So like, this is just input into why we and you potentially love weed. Okay, so marijuana contains like these natural like chemicals, THC if you want to get technical, delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol if you want to get technical. And so there's like these neurotransmitters in your brain called cannabinoids that at baseline they circulate at like normal quote unquote amounts. But when you ingest THC, essentially, it mimics those cannabinoids and it causes changes in your brain. So there's firing in specific receptors in your brain, the CB1 receptor, for example, and they cause your thoughts, your imagination, and your perception to magnify. But also, they bind to neurons that affect dopamine and norepinephrine in your body. This can make you feel euphoric, can cause pain modulation. Like these are all like pretty,
fun things. This is why people have fun.
I mean, lots of drugs and alcohol do these kind of things, right? It's why they often why people do them.
But one thing that's key is that the THC binds to certain neurons involved in novelty, and the influx of biochemical processes in your brain make mundane, repetitive tasks feel novel and fun, like dishwashing. So it's like, I think that's a big part of marijuana for me. And like you do it, I always notice you're like, well, I want to clean today, so I got to get high. And it's like,
well, yeah, because it's like cleaning is pretty boring. And so it's like, if you could make it more fun, why not?
Exactly. Like I'm literally like, I'll be like, I haven't done an email in a month. I'll do emails and I'll get high. I mean, that's maybe a bad idea.
Because your emails, even when you're sober,
are incoherent. But no, but the incoherence is a benefit. I found it recently. Someone thought it was cool that I said what's up to them, like in a professional setting. Anyways, my point is like novelty is something that I really think has to do with my addiction to weed, which is that like, I love novel experiences. I love trying new things, and weed can make the mundane, the TV show you've already seen, the movie, the theater you're going to again, so much more lit.
I will often replay like my favorite video games or watch my favorite movies when I'm high, because it's like a chance to kind of relive them, like from a nostalgic perspective, and kind of forget them a little bit while they're happening.
And there's euphoria. There's actually like chemical feelings in your brain that make you heightened to your perception of those things.
Yeah.
Like music. So I just like, it's important to remember, like, while we talk about quitting, why you might be doing it in the first place. It's a chemical, it's a drug. It makes life worth living. Okay.
Well, that's one way to put it. It doesn't have to make life worth living, but it can obviously enhance parts of your life. But obviously, and we've done a lot of episodes about the positives of marijuana, especially in relation to drugs, other drugs and alcohol. And there are even studies about like weaning people off of alcohol and how they might replace it temporarily with cannabis. And so like there is an important role and a good role of cannabis in society and culture. But I just think there's enough of the it's almost like the pendulum swings to like heighten all the good stuff to help break down the stigma against it, especially as like cultures have become more comfortable selling it and sharing it.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to say the good stuff. I was trying to say why it's fun.
Yeah,
because that's the big part of it. Go.
Two things I want to do is talk about first the actual like research and what types of treatments are the most effective at quitting and or minimizing. And then at the end, I thought like a lot of these treatments are more like diagnostic and from like a not medical perspective, but from like a treatment perspective. But for me, I've also been like, what can I just like do in my daily life? Like what can I start to do today without having to be like, I have to go get a therapist, or I should go talk to a doctor, or I need to buy drugs or something like that.
Yeah, I want to know that.
So that'll be like kind of the end, is like picturing what I'm kind of doing in my life. And just for context, not to postpone anymore, but I now have switched only to edibles because I don't like smoking. And I don't even think I necessarily do it so much. Like, I just want to give perspective of where I'm coming from. And it has become, I might do edibles like 2 or 3 times a week, which ends up being like you're burnt out a day and then you do it another day. And then it's like a cycle for me that I've realized if I have a free night, I'm like, I don't know when my next free night will be. So I might as well do an edible. And then it's like the next day I have a free night and I'm like, well, I don't know when my next free night is. I might as well do an edible. And so that kind of like loss of control for me has been like, okay, I want to just like step back a bit, and I need a little structure and help to figure out how to like minimize this and make sure it's not just doing it out of impulse for me and out of like anxiety and those feelings that come up when I'm just like alone at home with nothing to do.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of prompted me to want to do this. A lot of you might be in similar situations. Some of you might be like in more intense. Like a lot of people do smoke every single day and might say like they're high most of the time. So we'll go through the various.
Go into some. I'm so curious.
Okay. So I found like a lot of systematic reviews from as early as 2015 to 2024 that are looking at tons of studies to be like, what are the main treatments that work? There's basically 3. The first is, not so surprising, therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. This has been found to be like an effective treatment for stopping. It basically helps you to like identify triggers, manage cravings, improve coping skills, and restructure distorted beliefs around cannabis use. And the nice thing is you can also do this in group settings. So there are like...
Do you have to just bring it up with your therapist? Or do you think you need special therapists?
Like it will depend on if you have a therapist already. Some may specialize in cognitive behavioral therapy. Lots of different like, modalities for therapy. So it's worth
if you have a therapist talking about that, or if you're looking for one, if you feel like this is something you really want to make a change about, it's definitely a place to go. Is like ask, do they do cognitive behavioral therapy? Can you work through marijuana addiction? Now, on top of that, another kind of therapy is called motivational enhancement therapy. These are kind of like the two main types of therapy they realized are like actually quite effective when it comes to reducing the amount of cannabis that people take. So this basically uses motivational interviewing techniques to enhance personal motivation to change. So it's like someone will work with you to figure out like what are your motivations in life? Like who are you? How can we use the things that
So not
drive
your
you?
motivations to have weed, your motivations outside of weed to be like, how do you stay motivated in
I mean, it
life?
might be that. It could also be figuring out what are your actual motivations for doing weed. Like, is it to escape anxiety around work?
Mine's to
Is
feel
it-
novelty.
Yeah, but there's probably more than that.
Oh, no, there's
probably to avoid
endless.
boredom.
I pass out. To avoid boredom, to make life worth the living.
Well, one of
Okay,
the things
nice.
for this motivational enhancement therapy is it said it is especially useful for individuals who are initially ambivalent about quitting cannabis. So if you're
Which does that mean that's me? Because I don't care.
if you're kind of like, I know it's probably not good for me, but like, why quit? What's the point?
Yeah,
what
that's
should,
me.
What should my goals be? Like, this kind of therapy will
Yeah.
help you like dig a little deeper to figure out, do you want to do this? Why
I'm
should you want to do this?
addicted to weed.
Yeah.
No, I'm just like, and like that probably is the ambivalence. I'm like, I don't even want to quit because I'm so like,
Yeah, I think the hardest part is for someone like you,
just
you're like a
like-
high functioning person. Marijuana actually motivates you in terms of like, you're good at like painting and doing work and stuff when you're high. A lot of people,
but that's bad because it's like,
yes. And I think
I
this
should-
not scary part for someone like you, but for other people who are like you, the risk is that you become so accustomed to doing on a regular basis. If and when the negative starts to like pop up in your life, it will be probably harder to backtrack.
but no, I'm more scared to get high when negative things are happening in my life because I'm afraid of having like a panic attack. Do you know what I mean? Like it's weird. It's like,
But I don't mean negative things in your life.
Oh, you
I
mean like boredom.
when the negative consequences of weed catch up with you, the more you're doing it, the harder it is to backtrack. Like you may not realize that I've done episodes on, like it is impacting your sleep. It is
Yeah.
affecting your overall health. If you're doing it on a regular basis, you probably notice you don't dream that much. Like a lot of people when they quit have really intense dreams all of a sudden because there's certain parts of your sleep schedule, what do I say? Not schedule, sleep cycle. Thank you. Thanks, Mitch. Of your sleep cycle that are being changed and you're not getting those same types of sleep. So even though you might not feel it in some grand
Yeah.
way, those things could catch up with you at some point, and maybe then it might be you've already established such an intense habit of using it.
and I've been smoking weed since grade 10.
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
hate that when I talk to people and they're like, oh yeah, it's been so hard. I started like in university or in my mid 20s. And I'm like, I've been doing this for decades. And I've not even like, cause even then I was like it's in the stoner group. So I was always the one like smoking the least weed. So I was always like high
Like
on
you
my
felt
horse.
like you weren't. Like you're like,
Like
oh,
I've
they're all
managed to
smoking
be
some
like,
of that.
and it's like I still have my like pothead friends who smoke weed every day or like smoke it to go to sleep, and I'm always like, whoa, addicted. You know what I mean? Like I always like keep people around. Like imagine I was like only like friends with like some of my friends to keep them around because they're potheads, so I feel better about myself. But no, it's like there's always, you know what I mean? Like I always feel like I'm like, well, I'm not that bad. But then it's like, then I hang out with other people who are like, haven't been smoking weed since grade 10
Right.
and who don't like eat edibles. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not hanging out with you anymore. You're making me feel bad. I'm kidding. But like,
I mean, it's true. It goes to show how much your environment can impact you, and that'll be some of.
and
the,
that's why you blame me for your weed use because I am like, well, I'm having an edible.
No,
and then
I
you-
don't actually blame you. I blame you for like introducing me to it, and
That is insane. You have like such a
I'm kidding, I'm
sick
kidding, I'm
relationship with that too. Like even at the time, I was like, "You suck. We're breaking up." Because you were like, "Is it what?
I'm
the
just
noise
gonna
is getting louder."
re-say if you can hear weird squeaking in the background, there's something strange going on in our building. I'm sorry. Can you hear
It's
it?
way louder.
I
Oh
know,
my
it's above us now.
god!
They're,
It's like
like, cleaning up the
moving.
vents or something.
Okay, so sorry.
No, I like to just poke fun at you. I am joking. I would have found it one way or another. And it's more like since the pandemic, I would say my relation to it became because For me, I can't really be like high out in public. So once I was able to just be at home all the time, I felt more comfortable like having edibles.
True.
'Cause I
Like
had no
the
need.
pandemic made you get high more.
And even now, part of my sort of stepping back is I need to plan more activities with friends in the evenings so that I am out of the house because I won't do it then.
Yeah,
like
true.
I feel like for me, like for example, when I was in Madrid for a couple months, like I didn't do it. I didn't think about it. I was out of my normal context.
But you didn't do it at all?
One time because someone offered it to me out of 2 months. And I never was like searching
Wait, did
for
you
it.
feel withdrawal?
Not at all. That's what I mean. Like, I don't think I had
Oh.
like a super, super intense. I mean, who knows? Maybe when I first got there, I might have been experiencing like, but you're jet lagged. You know what I mean? Like,
I got off the fucking plane in Madrid and waltzed to the cannabis store and bought a weed loaf.
which are basically not even legal there.
No, like they like in Madrid,
It's
I like
legal.
now know all the signs. I'm like, in Spain, they figured out how to make a THC equivalent that's not actually THC to get around it. And I was like, oh, well, I'll pay 34 euros for this slice of weed loaf. And then I got high and was like, great. And then I was back there every day. It's like I was eating more weed loaf than
Remember,
prosciutto.
I didn't do any when you were there.
That's when I'm like, I have a problem. Like I just was like, I'm like, I don't have a problem, but I did find the weed store before I went to like a gallery.
I think
my
like,
God.
yeah, I think if you're thinking of novelty as well, it's like that
Yeah.
traveling is novel in the first
I know.
place.
It's like, I don't need a weed loaf. There's a gorgeous ass building that's old. And I'm like, oh, cool. Nice building. Where's the weed? Okay. Yeah. No, that's bad. That's bad. That's bad.
Okay, going back to the treatment. So those two, so cognitive behavioral therapy and motivational enhancement therapy, both have been effective for reducing the frequency and dependency, but in the short term. So studies actually, oh, the noise stopped.
Oh my God. The noise stopped. Can you hear this? It feels like that was like making me go a little crazy, and I hope everyone's okay.
Oh yeah, that was like,
I feel
I've
completely
seen
different
actually-
now.
Sorry, this is going to be a side note. I get very validated by TikTok all the time. And yes, I know you're all going to say I have autism, but it's like
Wait, what?
when the oven fan is on, I actually feel like my brain is
That made
melting.
me, that
And
was making me go crazy.
That reminded me of the
Yeah.
oven fan.
Okay,
I have to
wow.
put headphones in and put the noise canceling on when I'm cooking, even if I'm not listening to something.
This going away, that noise going away was better than weed. Actually, that's not true. But
Okay.
anyways.
So these methods are not as successful for abstinence as they are for just reducing your frequency. Like obviously quitting is actually very challenging. They found that after 9 months of, the noise is back. After 9 months, most of the results have faded. So it may be something that if you're really serious about, you might have to like keep up and go back. And they found that having at least 4 sessions of cognitive behavioral therapy more stretched out was better than having less over a short period of time.
Okay, so stretch out the therapy sessions.
Yes. Now, the final sort of like therapeutic style that was good when used in conjunction with these other two is called contingency management. Basically, this is like when you offer yourself tangible rewards for living up to your abstinence. Whether that mean
Wait, what? I didn't have weed, so I got to.
Yeah,
What?
in the studies they've been like
Jerk
they've given
off?
them. Okay, so in the studies they give them like money or vouchers
Oh,
or like monetary
money.
incentives. But I think so like you may be able to construct that for yourself with other kinds of rewards of like what you're allowed to give yourself. But in the studies they realized by giving an actual reward.
Wait, what is a reward you could give yourself to not smoke weed?
I don't know. Maybe you're like allowed to go have like an awesome meal out, and you're supposed to, I don't know. I'm just like, what are things that you would be excited to hold off and give yourself as like a fun reward when you made it to that?
That's
Like,
interesting.
Maybe
That's
you let yourself go
challenging.
splurge on like a fun fancy dinner or something like that.
Then you're just absolutely broke.
Well, okay, I'm not saying that.
No, but that's an interesting thing to think about. It's like, okay, how do you
Yes.
reward yourself in a different way?
I would say you also would just work through, if you're going to therapy with your therapist, like what that could
Yeah.
be.
I need to
There's-
talk to my therapist about this for sure.
That's actually what my last therapy session was about this.
Okay, I'm gonna
And
do that.
It was interesting to kind of have to face her being like, you have to practice being uncomfortable because not only obviously like we have a video explaining the physiological changes that are going on in your body, but it's like now that I've associated even like having a bath and relaxing or
Yeah,
cleaning,
that's not good.
It's like if I have a bath sober, she's like, you're gonna be like, I'm anxious. I don't like this as
Oh
much.
my
Like,
God.
but you can reestablish those habits, right? Like if you get high to play video games, like at first you're going to feel like, oh, this isn't, everything is just like associates with itself. Anytime you're doing something positive or if that feels good, it's going to link to everything else that's around.
Yeah.
The other night I hadn't played Fortnite with my friends in a while. I hadn't dropped. And I realized the last bunch of times I had done it was...
You were stoned?
No, around Christmas. And I had at that time got a lot of chocolate. My family always like gives a lot of chocolate during Christmas. And I don't eat chocolate very much, but during those games I would always be eating chocolate. And last night when I started playing, I was like, I want chocolate so bad, even though I never really eat chocolate.
Damn, you're a goddamn golden retriever.
I know. It's honestly, it just makes you realize how habitual things
Yeah.
become. It was like for a period of time, was playing video games every night with my friends, was just like casually eating chocolate. Now it's 4 months later, I haven't eaten chocolate, and I played that video game last night and was actually like, ugh, I'm craving chocolate.
I want to do everything high, so my trigger is everything. So that's
Yes,
rad.
that is a challenge. So everything will be hard then.
I haven't been to a movie theater sober since 1999.
Is that true?
Since Titanic came out.
After that movie, you were like, I have to be high if I'm ever coming back.
It's like, wow, everything's a trigger. I'm like, oh, I might want to like go to the gym. Maybe I should.
You do crazy things high. Like for me, I'm
No,
like,
I haven't gone to the gym high in a while, but there was a while
that's not
where
true. You probably have.
No, I actually haven't, which I just realized in this moment. I'm like, oh wow, I did curb that. But there was a time where I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna be high.
See, like I could never be high at the gym.
It was crazy. I'd like, you know,
Even by
like,
myself.
the mirror, and how there's like mirrors everywhere. It'd be like my face would be red, my eyes would be like fucking red and purple. My lips would be like purple, and I'd be like smirking, like listening to like Bad Bunny and like lifting really light weights and being like, this is so fun. And then everyone like, it's like, I was like looking at me, I'm like, everyone around me would be like, that guy's so high. Like, it was just like it wasn't the guy, I wasn't fooling anyone, not even myself. Well, obviously not myself.
I just think I would be so anxious about hurting myself. Like I just think my whole body awareness becomes completely different.
I work out like way worse.
You're just probably dancing and listening
I
to
like
music.
dance a lot. I get like in like tunnels on my phone, and someone's like, "Oh, are you still using this bench?" I'm like, "Oh,
standing there for
sorry." I'm like
30
on
minutes.
Wikipedia, like trying to figure out like Jack Black's first movie, and I'm like, "Oh, I guess yeah, you can have it." Anyways,
okay.
I stopped doing that. My point is, I have a lot of triggers.
Yeah, and that will be challenging, and it will be especially challenging for somebody who is high.
But
all the
I
time.
feel bad because I'm like, I don't like. I'm joking. Like, I don't know. It's like I haven't.
that you don't want to quit.
I just don't think I'm gonna have weed this week. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm like, oh God. I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna have weed this week.
I'm not sure what you're trying to say.
Like, I guess I'm just like, I still am not like wanting, like, I still am managing to do so much weed and not think I have a problem.
I think that
You know
is
what I
okay.
mean? Like, it's interesting.
If you don't
It's
think
like,
you have a problem,
I know, but
that's
then you
fine.
think that's like the ultimate denial?
It could be. I can't speak for you. No one can speak for anyone else. Like, that's why I wanted to say, like, I don't necessarily think doing edibles twice a week is so bad.
This novelty
but
thing
for
is what
me-
freaked me out, honestly. Because I was like, okay, I know I'm obsessed with novelty. I know that THC binds neurons in my brain that create feelings of novelty for things that aren't. I know that there's brain plasticity, so my brain is then going to be affected by all the times that I'm high.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting for you
It would down-regulate my
Doing it-
novelty neurons.
because you do it so regularly. You should be like, can I go a couple weeks without? And
Yeah.
then you'll probably realize the feelings that come up when you're like,
Yeah.
I don't have the energy
Because I
to go
never
do
have that
this,
because I'm
and
like, oh, I'll just do it.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. But I just think sometimes novelty is like maybe fucking my life up. Because I've used it as like a positive, like, you know, like that's classic therapy stuff. It's like, I love novelty, and that's what
Yeah.
makes me motivated to do really cool things, like try new food, and I'm never going to be like stuck in my ways. But then it's like, no, but then having too much novelty is like,
And also,
Giving
giving weed all the
into-
time isn't novel. You should probably have
Yeah,
a novel experience
you're right.
of being sober.
but I was also like reading about like how there's like this like big push in like manosphere vibes, which that's a whole other thing to talk about the manosphere. But I was really annoyed because my favorite podcast was like the manosphere, which doesn't exist, and it was just like, yeah, it
Oh,
does.
what? There's like actual full research.
I know.
about
Anyways,
that.
but like it's about stoicism and how like,
Okay, that's super popular.
yeah. Did you know that?
Yeah,
what the
of course,
hell?
Greg. I use the internet. There's
What
like
the hell? I like you always are like what internet?
It's like Greg's always like, everyone's just like reading the New Yorker and finding out these things. I'm like, I've known about this for months.
That's never happened. Every time I say that, you're like, yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Anyway, stoicism is about self-control,
Yes.
and there's like a lot. It's like, oh, like
And it goes
constantly
back to,
seeking
like-
novelty is maybe a lack of self-control.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly, that's all I'm saying.
But obviously people could also argue like trying to have so much control might mean something else as well.
Yeah, and that's my worst nightmare.
Yeah, but there's full-on YouTube channels dedicated to like self-help and improvement based around like Stoic ideas.
Okay,
and
so apparently
ideas
it's
from like
super
philosophers.
like right wing.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that it would also be like linked with Red Pill, but accessible to lots of people. Like to me, I wouldn't be surprised. This is just anecdotal, or like my own conjecture, to be like, oh, this is like an entry point for like Red Pill stuff.
Yeah, and also apparently like
that I have consumed myself.
The famous Stoics like actually like would like cry all the time and like share their emotions and help others, and it's like all these like right wing guys being like ignoring all those parts and just being like, be stoic. Anyways, my point was that I was like reading about stoicism and was like, novelty's like not the opposite of stoicism, but there's something there where it's like being okay with like the mundane. Like, yeah, anyways, I was just like, okay, that's not me.
Going back to therapies, I want to bring up something, and that is like how do you say this word? Pharmacotherapies. Thank you.
Like things you could take?
Yeah, drugs.
Let's go.
So bad news is there are no like approved drugs by the FDA in specific, but I don't think anywhere in the world that are used.
I feel like
in these studies.
Yeah, I feel it was.
There are lots of different drugs in like early research stages, and I think some of the clinical trials have used them outside of the scope of their studies, because if you're asking somebody to like quit, they may be going through some severe withdrawal, and this can like presumably help with withdrawal. So I'm going to name 3 things. I'm not saying to go use these, but these are like being researched and showing promising results. The first is cannabinoid agonists, like one's called nabiximols. It's a THC or CBD oral spray, and again, it's just like it's shown that it's helped people deal with cravings and withdrawal.
Well, yeah, we should also mention like there's legit withdrawal. So like that's what like we've talked about in past videos and episodes that we have.
It is very hard, especially the first couple days are going to be intense. You're going to feel angry, grumpy,
can't sleep,
like jittery potentially. Like your life is not going to be great when you're
and you like, it all depends on how much you've consumed before. So if you've consumed it like once a week for a year, you're going to have a lot harder time than someone who's done it like 3 times a week for a year. Like you can't always compare your withdrawal to others. Yeah. Because a lot of people, like I made this video about quitting weed, and a lot of people would just like, people are constantly arguing in the comments about it, and it's like because all the responses are people being like, it's so different for everyone, and you probably did it less than I did. Like people are really struggling with it, others aren't. Like, but the withdrawal symptoms are real, and that's something that I think is important for everyone to like remember.
Okay, the other drug 2 are NAC, which is N-acetylcysteine. So this is an antioxidant supplement. Showing promising results in the same thing, like reducing cravings.
Wait, this is what we have to do a video on.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone is talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, aren't you Mr. Internet all the time? Don't you know that?
You're so spicy.
Right? Is it NAC?
Yeah. Yes, we can make a video on this. The other one is called gabapentin. And again, early evidence that it can help with withdrawal. But these are all super early stages in terms of like the effects they have on people, how effective they actually are, whether that's just like very moderately or actually super useful. Maybe at some point they'll have these drugs to say like, hey, if you want to quit, you know, like taking a nicotine gum or nicotine patch, like maybe this is a way to help you like step away from that. Yeah, look into it.
No, it's NAD supplements.
No, well, this is NAC.
No, I know. So now I'm like, there's 2 things. Okay, now I'm freaking out. Now I need to know about all this stuff.
Okay.
Should I take NAD or NAC? Like, NAD is the thing that people are like, I've heard people on podcasts talking about, like, they take it and they literally, like, have so much energy. It's so, like, whatever the fuck. The way they talk about it, I'm like, I need to look into this, because people are almost making it sound like
a miracle
it makes
drug.
you smarter. It makes you more locked in. It makes you better at everything, but like in this generic way that's really spooky. And then in LA and all these places, like people will be hungover. People will come, they'll give them the IV drip of NAD, and they're like, I'm a new person. And it's like, it's just that cofactor NAD plus that you learn about in biochemistry in a liquid form. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. We should look into that. I don't have anything to say other than
I'm looking into
the drugs that I'm talking about are to help you with withdrawal symptoms. I'm always more skeptical of, there's got to be trade-offs if you can get hungover and just take a thing and it fixes you.
Yeah. Well,
like,
also,
where are you? You're losing something.
Yeah.
There,
you also mentioned NAC, and this is NAD. So I'm like, we might have 2 episodes coming up. Yeah, like I was hearing like Gabby from the Traders would just inhale NAD before every single like
Traders
round
scene?
table thing. I was like reading this
to be,
on
like,
TikTok, and then
ripped.
they're like,
It's just
that's
like
why
cocaine.
and before her confessionals and stuff, and that
Okay.
people like on TikTok were like, that's why she's so funny and stuff.
Well, she's also has to just be. You can't. It just doesn't make you funny.
No, I know, but apparently she
It's like
said,
have an espresso shot.
yeah, but apparently she said somewhere like she was just like we weren't allowed anything, so I would just inhale NAD, and then like my point is like people are saying
Talking
these
about-
things.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like an LA trend.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Where do you want to go from here?
Well, did you go through? That was all the pharmacological.
That was like the actual treatment side of things. I wanted to end off at some point with just kind of like a day-to-day approach and like how you might think about like structuring this for yourself if you aren't able to go to therapy or, you know, in as a supplement to therapy.
Well, one thing I was just gonna say was just like about how frickin' strong weed is now.
True. Yeah.
Because
yeah,
I feel like that's another thing that people like maybe aren't realizing. Like prior to the 1990s, it was less than 2% THC in like a joint. Then it increased from 2% to 4% between 1995 and 2015. And so I was like, okay, wait, that's like kind of like when I was smoking weed was like 2% to 4%.
like a huge chunk.
Of THC. And now in 2017, 2017, that's even like a long time ago, the most popular strains in Colorado have between 17 to 28% of THC. So it's like, okay. Like
And
the weed I was smoking in high school was not nearly as strong as the
Yeah.
weed I'm eating now. And so I'm like,
Yeah, even
they're
when
not comparable.
The one time I did it in Spain, I was actually also like, I don't feel anything.
I know. Even
but I
when
was around someone, so I only did like a little bit because I was scared. It would,
even like my
have me anxious.
Madrid like loaf, it was like, yeah, this is working, but it's not hitting like Canada.
And think about it, like I actually don't know how popular things like people making their own edibles in the past were, but now it's so much more commonplace, and edibles obviously stay in your system. Like you end up being high for much longer, and like those
And they
doses are-
like the way your body metabolizes it makes it stronger compounds that your body then getting
So-
high on edibles makes you more high.
For sure. And
Also,
you're
there
really
was-
changing your brain, and I'm not saying that to say that it is a bad thing, but if you're doing it all the time, of course it's going to affect the way that your
Yeah.
brain processes information, the way it feels good. Like it is a really intense thing to have weed and sometimes be like, wow, I am so much
So
happier.
high. Oh, what did you say?
So much happier.
Whoa.
That's what I have to talk about in therapy. I'm like, it's a really intense thing to be like, I don't want. It's scary that I'm like, I'm so much happier if I'm high.
Oh my God.
Everything in my life, I feel better about the way that I look. I feel better about like the decisions I'm making in my life. But then it's like, well, I don't want to have to rely on this to feel good. I mean, a lot of my.
Oh my
therapists-
God. When I get high, I look in the mirror. I'm like, wow, you look dank as fuck.
Really, I'm always like, oh my God, who's that cute guy?
Oh my God. I'm literally like, so sometimes I'll like want to make a TikTok, but I'll get high before and be like, well, I can't because I look like a psychopath. Okay. So CAMH also did a study. And
MH is like
in
how would you
Toronto.
describe
It's
it?
like, yeah, a mental health
a
hospital.
rehab facility.
And yeah, just that like the THC in this cannabis that we have in Toronto is so strong, it can contribute towards increased risk of depression over a long time. The jury's like still out, but they're like starting to do research on that. And then, but then when it comes to like depression and anxiety, there's also people who can cherry pick information and be like, when they did studies on, this is kind of an interesting study because it's not a placebo double blind. But they asked people who chose to do cannabis versus people who chose not to self-report the way they felt in regards to depression and anxiety. And the people who chose marijuana said they had decreased depression and anxiety. So it's like that is
association,
that's like
yeah.
a thing that you'll see out there about being like, oh, it helps my depression and anxiety. But they're like, that's not a fair study when people are choosing versus not. Like that's
Yeah.
not a proper way of like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like someone might be like, yeah, like what you're saying. They might be like, well, I'm depressed when I'm not high.
And things can go both ways, right? Like some conditions, whether this be like mental disorders or substance use, it's like which came first, and they can both affect each other. So like
Yeah.
somebody who is depressed may turn to substance to deal with that, but there are other studies that show like becoming addicted to substances and reliance on that can also implicate like anxiety disorders and just depression and suicide. So it's like it can be either way, and it's difficult to parse that out in studies like which came first. Even I'm working on a video on perfectionism right now, and a lot of it is like linked to how like perfectionism can cause depression, for example, but it also makes every other mental disorder harder to deal with, and it almost like goes in the other direction. So I don't know.
Also, like marijuana dependence is defined as someone who's tried to quit more than once, but never made it past day 7. And I was like, day 7. And there's like a whole thing in my video about day 7. And I'm like, damn, like day 7 is definitely the day that I'm like, it's been 7 days. Good for you. You're Buddha. You got to have a weed.
It's worth putting this in our show notes and in the YouTube description, but I came across these like, I don't know what to call them. Not like worksheets, but it's like a 14-day plan to help you quit and a month plan. And you just like go through and it helps you like build out a calendar. And it obviously gives you a bunch of information about like what you might feel and how to, when you're in those moments, like replace it with what kind of activities when you're feeling super anxious or angry or those kind of things. That could be a useful resource to actually, if you're like, I need some structure to build this out. So I'm not just saying I'm going to quit. But okay, maybe I'll just go through this kind of like day in the day checklist of things.
Day in the day?
Day to day. Sorry,
day to
you're
day.
day to day. Like, because I was
Get ready with me. Day in the day.
I guess I meant like obviously being like cognitive behavioral therapy is the best treatment. It's like a lot of people aren't at that point where they are ready to
hit me, go.
So this is like one. Clearly writing down your goal, like literally making.
I won't have weed for 1 month.
Yes, but I think. And the research shows like quitting for a month abstinence, fine. That will be good for your body and give you a break, but you'll probably go right back into your habits. So for me right now, my goal is like start little. Can I go down to once a week? I'm only allowed to have it on weekends, 1 time a week. That's my goal. Okay. So now I know like what I'm trying to live up to. Write it down, have it somewhere visible. That's the thing everything says, and I'm always like, I'm not doing that part.
I know. I remember you were like once like, I'm going to make a vision board. And I was like, yeah, it has to be visible. And you're like, no, it doesn't. And then you just never did it. And I was like, okay. I was like,
it's just not an effective method for me because I have written down things and kept them on my bedside table. And then I just like never look at them.
You don't like that idea. Anyways.
Okay. So I'm just letting you know, I'm not going to be doing all these things. Okay. 2, track your current use for 2 weeks if you haven't already. Like understand
I'm gonna do
when
that.
you're using it, what times of day you use it. What triggers you to use it in the first place? How does it make you feel when you use it, after you use it? So you have like a little diary of like what's going on in your life and actually know. Think of it like the gym. You know, you're like trying to track your progress and you need a benchmark.
Weed tracker.
Yeah.
And you just say when you did it.
This was like, take note, especially of like, if you're doing it every day, it's like, is there a time of day you feel like you need to do it? After you come home, are you like
3 or 4 p.m.
Okay.
when I need more novelty. Okay, continue.
Okay. 3, plan your specific cannabis-free days or hours. Like, have it be very clear. And this should be gradual. So if you're someone who uses it every day, you might not be like, I'm going to stop using it for 3 days a week. It might just be like, I'm only going to smoke 1 time a day instead of twice a day. Or I'm only going to like Mondays and Tuesdays take a little bit back because it will be hard to just jump into the abyss. It's important to like replace this time with something else. So knowing you're going to have a lot, that's what my therapy was about. It's like when you don't do it, when you're expecting you normally would, it's going to come up for you that it's really uncomfortable. What are you going to do? Are you going to go for a walk? Are you going to exercise? Are you going to play games? Like, how can you distract your mind to replace this?
Goon.
Make a calendar.
You're going to goon for 3 hours
Actually,
to porn.
Something I'll mention that I thought was really, I mean,
you're not listening to me. I'm like talking about goon. You're like, and something I'll mention.
Because I'm about to go into my therapy, okay, Mr. Goon. Okay, yeah, goon. Go.
No,
goon.
don't goon. Don't edge.
If you
and
need
don't
to.
and don't Google goon.
Okay, I was gonna say something really interesting from my therapy that my therapist said is really common is that people who become addicted to substances, it can often become like the will I, won't I that you get fixated
That's so you.
I know.
It's crazy.
Because a lot of times I'm like, I don't really want to. And then between now and then I'm like, but what if I do? What if I'm like, am I going to do it tonight? Am I not going to do it tonight?
Wait, you get addicted to that? That's like the most annoying feeling. But you.
Yeah, obviously. But it's like.
Why? Because you're like.
You're stuck between.
You're stimulated or something?
I don't know. I'm a really like, it's hard for me to make decisions in life.
You'll run around in circles the whole, am I going to have weed? Am I going to have weed? And I'm just like, they're like already getting high.
So my work with her, that's part of this. It's like, decide you're doing it on Saturday. Get it over. Stop thinking about it now.
But you already even this week have been like, well, when am I going to do it?
Exactly.
Friday or Saturday? Like make a decision.
I've minimized it to the weekend.
But it's, you literally were like, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, no, those are which day?
Okay, that's because I realized we were busy on Saturday, Sunday. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to do it this week.
And then I was like, well, you could Friday. And you were like, I could Friday. And I was just like,
okay,
wait,
I have
what?
a problem. Okay, exactly. You do it every fucking day. You don't have this.
I don't do
you
it
don't
every fucking
have
day.
You don't have this problem because you never think about it.
I know. It's just like
You just go, oh, pop, oh, gone. Okay.
okay, wow.
Okay. So
You get addicted to the unsureness.
it's not addicted to it, but that's a big part of like your mind
Interesting.
fixating back and forth. Will I, won't I? It's like important to make the decision. I'm not going to do it, or here's when I'm going to do it. And I don't need to like be thinking about this.
Yeah, that's smart.
Or this is like a lot of my therapy is like, give yourself time, schedule the time you're allowed to think about this. If suddenly my brain starts going like, oh, I want it, like not related to weed, like, I'm not sure, am I going to do this thing? Like, it's like, stop thinking about it now. You have an hour in your calendar where you're going to plan and decide, are you doing that thing?
Okay, I'm going to do weed on Friday, and that's it this week.
Okay, copy me yet again.
Okay, go to number 4.
Okay. Plan rules for yourself when you are using it. So for the times that you are going to use it, like make it very clear for yourself when that's going to be, like I was just saying, how much you're allowed to take, what activities you don't want to do it during. So maybe you decide like, I don't want to do it during social activities, so I'm only going to do it X, Y, Z. When you're having cravings, if you can't hold out, if you're like super addicted, there's a philosophy that's like wait 15 to 30 minutes. Because a lot of cravings go away after this. It's like force yourself to say, oh my God, I want it really bad right now. Okay, set a timer for 30 minutes, readdress then. Maybe I'll do it in 30 minutes, but maybe it's just like this intense feeling I have right now. And if I just let it pass, it'll pass. Planning coping strategies, kind of touched on that. So like, what are you going to do when you're in withdrawal? You're going to go for a walk, you're going to exercise. Change your whole environment, which is like get rid of cannabis in your home, or like things that trigger you, that make you think about it. Like how can you the habits and rituals that you do, how can you change them? I think for me, that's why when I was in Madrid, I didn't think about it because it's like wasn't part of my regular life.
Even though I'd shown you the weed store immediately.
Yeah. Well, I was too scared to go buy it. Okay, and the final 2 is like accountability, support. So obviously if you're comfortable, telling friends and family, not to have them hold you accountable, but just to like know. Maybe they are able to check in and
No weed till Friday, Buster.
Exactly. And there are, like you can look for communities online too. And then the final thing is, which we talked about, create rewards. Like if you hit your goal, if you last a week without doing it, maybe you do like go celebrate. Like for me, I'm like, oh, I'm going to like plan to go get Korean food because I haven't.
Yeah, I was like, what is a good
cute
enough reward?
I want to ritualize the reward.
A spa day.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be something so over the top. It's just like, can you ritualize the success with something specific?
Yeah.
Maybe it is just like having a really cute latte and going on a walk, like something like brings you a amount of joy.
I'm not gonna have weed until Friday, and then on Friday, oh no, the reward shouldn't be when you're high. That's probably just gonna make it more fun to be high. Never mind. I was like, and then I'm gonna get high and I'm gonna do all the things I want to do. No, but then I'm going to Spain next week.
I think you should say you're not going to do it at all in Spain. I know you won't.
That's oh my God, I'm so addicted. I'm like, no, I literally can't wait to do it in Spain. I'm going to be like, hey, Ralph, my guy, you got the weed loaf?
Oh my God, Ralph. You mean, yeah, what's a good Spanish name?
No, he wasn't from Spain. He was from Canada.
The guy who sold it?
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
Anyways.
Okay, that was kind of like, I hoped that made it a little more tangible.
That was good.
Outside of the like
parts.
therapy stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you are super addicted, definitely, I think it's worth working with a therapist if it's something you want to change. But, as much as I'm talking to my therapist about it, I'm not doing like specifically cognitive behavioral therapy. And so it's on me as well to be like, I just need to like make some of my own goals. And I think I've only just started this. This is like my second week.
Well, and it will be exciting in the coming weeks. We're going to talk about it more like in our little intros, just like keeping each other accountable. I'll explain how high I am in Spain.
Yeah.
And you'll explain to me maybe how you're doing so well.
Yeah. I will say like my What'd You Learn This Week that we'll talk about is related to quitting social media. And there's some tips from that I think are super relevant to this.
Cool.
As
And
well.
then mine's also going to be about whether dire wolves are back. So maybe we should just do that now.
Okay. Well, we'll take a little break and then we'll be back for What'd You Learn This Week.